Never really considered myself much of a Dan Deacon fan, to be honest. I'm not really one to check out much of his music. Before this album came out, wasn't really hyped to check it out, wasn't really planning to check it out actually. But I thought, you know what, let's give it a try, see if anything changes, and yeah, I'm quite happy with this album. Hadn't expected to take that much away from this album whatsoever before going into it, but I will say this album is actually quite impressive, and I'm enjoying it quite a lot. I think this time around I'm mostly just impressed with the fact that the vocals seem a bit more controlled and less annoying and less grating than they've ever been before. Occasionally it slips back into the usual Dan Deacon type isms, which I can't really get with at all, but then for the most part, I'm actually pretty impressed with the way he uses his vocals across this album. These psychedelic rushes of like sugar are exhilarating as hell on this album too, especially on tracks like Sat by a Tree. That entire song to me is just such a chaotic, speedy race of a track, and I think it's great. It is extremely dizzying, but it's infectious, and that's the most important part about it. That's what this track does so well. It's infectious as fuck. You've got the very Animal Collective type moments, mostly thinking about Merryweather Post Pavilion on the ARP 1 and ARP 2. ARP 3 not so much, but ARP 1 and ARP 2 are definitely like straight up callbacks to that album from Animal Collective. Not saying he's ripped it off or anything like that, and in fact Dan Deacon was playing with these types of sounds before anyway, but it is just the blueprint of what Animal Collective were doing on that album. Unfortunately, I think ARP 3 kills off some of that momentum though. I think those two tracks are great, but then it just doesn't quite work as well once you transition into ARP 3, not really getting much out of this one. And then those vocoder vocals come in. Not sure about that. A track like My Friend strips it back quite a bit though. You don't really get that dizzying chaos that you were getting on most of the other tracks on this one. And it actually works quite nicely too, because you're just getting Dan's raw vocals, which I'm quite impressed with actually. There are a few tracks that I quite like his vocal performances on. Fell Into the Ocean as well, with those Beach Boys type harmonies on the verses. That's a nice little touch. And the chorus on that one too, I think is pretty fantastic. It's so damn catchy. The most impressive moment on the entire album for me though has got to be Weeping Birch. This track is such a strange odyssey and a weird detour as well, because it's like this synth heavy psychedelic rush once again, but it's also like this modern classical take on this synth sound. It's a really odd combination, but it works so well. It's such an enlightening moment. Like, I feel like he could really take this further on another album and see where he takes this, because it's such an impressive track. The way it builds as well is so fulfilling. But yeah, I like this. Definitely a surprising album for me so far in 2020. Wasn't quite expecting to enjoy it. Got way more out of it than I thought I would. I'm gonna go 7 out of 10. Hopefully you enjoy this album too. Let me know your thoughts on this album here. Let me know in the comments. Have a good day. Subscribe if you haven't already. Goodbye.